All right, guys. So over the last couple of days, Donald Trump has done a sit-down interview, a rally, and a cult-like cabinet meeting where he has made it explicitly clear that he not only intends on continuing to plunge us into a dystopian fascist hellscape, as well as a global recession, but also that he is completely detached from reality. So here to start us off, we got a bunch of different clips that I want to run through. We got Donald Trump sitting down on ABC News talking about his first 100 days of his presidency. And they get into a conversation, a back and forth here on Abrego Garcia, who obviously I think most people are familiar with at this point. He was the Maryland father who was, without any due process, deported to a torture slave camp in El Salvador. And they're specifically referencing the tattoos that Abrego Garcia has on his knuckles. So I want to watch this clip, and then I'll show you guys what the tattoos actually look like and whether or not Trump is completely delusional here.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir. I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't
Take a look
there,
at the
but
photograph.
they're there now, right?
No,
but they're
they're in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that,
Why don't you just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested.
Okay, so that's completely insane, guys. This is not just Trump lying here, right? He might be lying, or he might just be so completely brain rotted and detached from reality that he doesn't know that the picture he's referencing here by saying that Abrego Garcia has literally MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles was photoshopped. Or maybe somebody around him in his inner circle, like Stephen Miller, for example, is lying to him and saying that he does actually have MS-13 on his knuckles. But he didn't just say it once here, right? He left no room for possible interpretation that he was just talking about the other symbols that Garcia has on his knuckles. He made it explicitly clear, probably 10 to 12 times right there, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. So here's the image in question, guys. He's trying to claim that these letters and numbers up top here, MS-13, are literally tattooed on Abrego Garcia's knuckles. Now, notice the difference between the actual tattoos here, which is a marijuana leaf, a smiley face, a cross, and a skull. Then notice the difference between those, which look like real tattoos because they are, and then this up here. This is very clearly, in a very crude way, somebody, after this picture was taken, going on and adding the MS-13 on top of it. It's not difficult to figure out, guys, right? Even I think like my parents, who are boomers, could easily spot this from a mile away, that these are not real tattoos, okay? Now, originally when this image came out, my thought process, as well as many other people's thought process, was that they weren't trying to claim that the MS-13 was literally tattooed on his knuckles, but they were just putting this as a placeholder to try to explain what these tattoos meant, right? To say that the marijuana leaf stands for M, the smiley face stands for S, and then the cross somehow stands for a 1, and then the skull somehow in their warped interpretation means 3, right? And they've come up with a bunch of different explanations and justifications for how somehow a skull translates into a 3 there. So that's originally what I thought they were trying to say. But no, Donald Trump here is saying definitively that he thinks that Abrego Garcia literally had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles, which again is 100% false. Now, it would be comical in a way if it wasn't so fucked up, because this is part of the justification that Trump is trying to use to lock a man up in a foreign torture dungeon for the rest of his life, claiming that this is evidence that he is part of this gang, and therefore we can ship him on a plane with no due process to El Salvador, a place that a judge had previously said you absolutely cannot send him, and that he has been ordered, even by the Supreme Court, to facilitate his return, which he's doing absolutely nothing of the sort to try to do. So, I mean, it's sick shit on multiple different levels. Now, we also had here, to double down on how dark stuff is getting right now, we have Trump at his rally just yesterday in Michigan, where he played a propaganda video of prisoners having their heads shaved at the gulag in El Salvador, and the crowd responds by chanting USA, USA. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this.
Worst of the worst are being sent to a no-nonsense prison in El Salvador. Why don't you watch this? Watch this. Take a look.
Chanting USA, USA. Now, guys, remember, we know the stats on many of the people who have been sent to this El Salvador CCOT, torture dungeon, and a vast majority of them that we know about from these initial flights that he's done have absolutely no criminal record whatsoever. Some of the justifications that they were using to send people to El Salvador were like a guy had an autism awareness tattoo for his family member who has autism, and that somehow was interpreted as him being a part of a violent gang, right? There was the famous example of the gay barber who was sent down there as well. I mean, there is no legitimate evidence whatsoever that all or even most of these people are criminals, are gang members, or have done anything wrong in order to justify, because keep in mind, we're not even just deporting them, we're sending them to prison, presumably for life. This is not a prison people come out of, right? And here you have a crowd of MAGA cultists chanting USA, USA, as their rights, along with the rights of undocumented immigrants, are being trampled on left and right. Now, we also had another clip here from the same interview as before, where Donald Trump is confronted with the fact that tourism numbers have gone down pretty significantly in the US for a number of different reasons. And he responds by, again, showing that he's just completely detached from reality and says, no, they're actually skyrocketing.
Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now, Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Wait till you see the real numbers come out in 6 months from now. Wait till you see the numbers.
Okay. So he makes multiple different claims there. He says they're going to go way up, right? Like, look at the numbers 6 months from now. I don't know what he thinks is going to happen then, but he also says they're way up right now. We're doing very good right now. Guys, this is it's a verifiable fact that this is not the case. I mean, this person helpfully, put up the numbers up here at the top. U.S. airports are welcoming fewer international tourists. You can see the numbers plummeting off a cliff there. You also have the number of Europeans traveling to the U.S. has cratered under Donald Trump. This is according to the International Trade Administration and the U.S. Department of Commerce. You can see all of these different countries of visitors from these countries: Germany, Denmark, Austria, Iceland, Norway, Spain. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's not a mystery as to why this might be the case, right? I just saw a story, I think last week, of a couple of tourists who were traveling from Germany, and one of their final stops as they were traveling around was, I believe, in Hawaii. And when they got to Hawaii, they were arrested and then deported, right? And they claimed, oh, well, you didn't have like a hotel booked or whatever. And so they arrested these people. Immigration officials did, right? So, and deported them. It's like, what do you think is going to happen when it's literally becoming unsafe for people to travel to this country, even on vacation? Not people who are coming here as immigrants. Much less safe, obviously, for people who are trying to immigrate to the US, even if they're going through all of the legal avenues. But it shouldn't be a mystery, especially while at the same time, as you're cracking down and doing this dystopian crackdown on immigration and arresting tourists in some circumstances, you're also declaring economic war on basically every single country on the face of the planet. Like, yeah, people are not too happy with the United States right now. The results of this here from The Guardian, they say the U.S. to miss out on billions as Trump's policies deter overseas tourists. Number of visitors sinks 11.6% in March as deportations and tariffs make the U.S. a less appealing destination. Guys, this is billions and billions of dollars that we're talking about here. I was trying to look up the numbers earlier, and tourism to the U.S. apparently accounts for like $3 trillion or more dollars within the U.S. economy. So, I mean, this is not an insubstantial thing, right? There are plenty of people whose entire jobs rely on tourism in the U.S. And, I guess if you take these numbers as they are, we're talking about potentially approaching a number lost just on tourism that's about the same amount that Elon Musk has saved through Doge, right? I mean, that's how insane these kinds of numbers are. Now, another clip here from the same interview, specifically on the 145% tariffs on China. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
and
so 145% tariffs on China, and that's
good.
Basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States.
Okay, so, first off, what does that even mean? That China is going to eat the tariffs? I mean, I still don't think that he knows what a tariff actually is. It's pretty simple. It's a tax on imports that U.S. companies pay in order to import things from around the world. So, if you have a 145% tariff on China, then for the most part, that basically means trade with China or importing stuff from China to the U.S. has completely stopped. Right. And you can look at some of the images online of what U.S. ports look like right now, like the port of L.A. And they're basically emptying out because nothing's coming in, because companies cannot afford to import stuff from a country that you're raising the price effectively on them by 145%. So in the coming weeks, because we haven't seen the worst of this yet, it takes a number of months for a lot of this stuff to actually set in. But within the next couple of weeks, we're probably going to see emptying shelves in places like Walmart and Target and Costco and other places around the country. We're going to see layoffs as a result of that. People, especially port workers, dock workers, truck drivers, are going to start losing their jobs as a result of this shutdown. And Trump's analysis here is that China is going to eat that? What the fuck does that even mean? Right now, China isn't blinking. As far as we know so far, China isn't even talking to Donald Trump. He continues to pretend as if he's having phone calls with them, and then China is immediately coming out and saying, "We're not calling you. We haven't called you. What are you talking about?" So he's getting called on that bullshit, and he's just pretending like this isn't going to have any impact, right? The interviewer here, he says, well, this is going to raise prices on a whole bunch of stuff that we import from China. And Trump just says, no, you're just assuming that. It's like, no, that's just basic math, right? That's basic math. China is one of our largest trading partners, especially when it comes to importing stuff from other countries. They're right up there on the list, 1, 2, or 3. And when you effectively shut off trade with them or make it 145% more expensive, then that's going to result in mass inflation. Not difficult to figure out. At the same time, by the way, in regards to his tariff policy, he has no industrial policy to incentivize or to build out domestic manufacturing. So we're not even getting sort of a bolstered effect from that. It's just negative what he's doing here and pretending like he has all the cards when China has effectively already won this stare off here. Now, another clip here, I'll just read the quote from this one. He said, "They made $1 trillion with Biden selling us stuff. Much of it we don't need. Somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open." I think he means empty. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, and maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple bucks more. So this is the economic pitch that Trump is making to the American people. He's saying, number one, you're going to have to buy less stuff, right? You're not going to have as much stuff. And at the same time, the stuff that you do buy is going to be more expensive. That's what he's saying here, guys. Now, this is something where you could make that kind of a pitch to the American people, and they might get behind it if you were simultaneously pairing it with, again, an industrial policy that was going to bring back thousands of good-paying, long-lasting union jobs, right? If you were also pairing it with, helping Americans with universal health care or universal access to higher education or canceling people's medical debt or student debt or increasing wages or, improving people's lives materially, you could get away with something like this. But Trump isn't doing that. He's not doing that. If anything, he's doing the opposite. Because at the same time that he's saying you're going to have less stuff and the stuff you have is going to be more expensive, he's also slashing social programs for working class people. He's attacking unions in this country, which is going to lead to lower wages, less safe working conditions, worse benefit packages, right? They're trying to cut hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid in their upcoming budget bill while they're jacking up the Pentagon budget. This is the deal that Trump is trying to sell to the American people, which, believe it or not, this is probably the last country where you could make this kind of a sales pitch. Because for the last however many decades, this is how our entire economy has been built up, right? Good or bad. I think actually a lot of the consumerism in the United States is a bad thing for the most part, but this is how our economy works. Everything is shitty except for okay, maybe you'll be able to get cheap access to a bunch of different shit, right? That's the one thing that's holding the US economy together with duct tape, is that. And he's saying, not anymore. And also, we're not going to help you on any of the other things. All right. We also had some Truth Social comparisons here from Trump, comparing January of 2024 to April, or yesterday, of 2025. So this is back from 2024, January. He says, this is the Trump stock market when things were doing well, right? Because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win and that will drive the market up. Everything else is terrible. And record-setting inflation has already taken its toll. Make America great again. So over a year ago, when Biden was still the president and Trump was running for president, he claimed credit for the stock market doing well, saying that everybody thinks that I'm going to win the election. And so they're betting on that. And it's causing this massive boom, right? This is not the Biden economy. This is the Trump economy. Then fast forward to today, actually. He says, when the stocks are down, this is Biden's stock market, not Trump's, speaking in the third person for some reason. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in and companies are starting to move into the USA, not true, in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we'll have to get rid of the Biden overhang. This will take a while, has nothing to do with tariffs, only that he left us with bad numbers, but when the boom begins, it will be like no other. Be patient. So when the stock market was doing good under Biden, that's actually Trump's stock market. When the stock market is doing bad under Trump, that's actually Biden's stock market. Now, if Trump hadn't done the massive global economic war on the entire planet, then he could make a more plausible argument here, at least. But what we've seen recently, especially with a significant drop in the GDP, which is actually slowed down during the last quarter, we know for a fact that it's his trade policy that has caused this to happen, right? There wasn't this market panic before Trump announced on his Liberation Day that he was going to go to war economically with the entire world. There's a direct correlation with what we're seeing here, especially with the GDP numbers, because all of these companies had to panic because they didn't know what his trade policy was going to be, and they all started massively importing things to prepare for the tariffs, right? So they could get them before the prices got jacked up. So he directly caused the stock market chaos. He directly caused the slowdown in the GDP, and he's just pathetically deflecting on it, pretending like it has nothing to do with his economic war on the world. Now, we also have, looking at his, again, very cult-like cabinet meeting here, a couple clips from that. First off, we have Pam Bondi, his attorney general, who makes a bizarre claim here. Let's go ahead and watch this.
3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days. which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. Kids are dying every day because they're taking this junk laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dropping dead.
So, what? Did she just say, are you ready for this, media? As if she was about to say something profound, and then said that Trump, through, I guess, his crackdown on fentanyl, has saved 258 million lives? 258 million lives. And she's specifically referencing children. Guys, there's only about like 70 million people in the United States that are under the age of 18. Like 70 million. She's multiplying that by what? Almost 3, 4? The total population of children in the United States have been saved by Trump's fentanyl crackdown? What exactly are we talking about here, guys? 258 million. That's like close to the entire population of the United States. Now, I think what she did here is they took what they're claiming is the total amount of fentanyl that they have stopped or seized at the border, right? And they're taking that total amount of fentanyl and they're saying, theoretically, how many lethal doses do we have in this? And then she's extrapolating that and saying, this amount of fentanyl could theoretically, if we gave it out to everybody, kill 258 million people, and then saying, therefore, Trump has saved 258 million lives. I mean, it's just a bizarre thing to say. 258 million? What do you mean he saved that many lives? Now, this is also coming, I should point out, in terms of the opioid crisis in this country and the overdose crisis in this country. This is coming at the same time that, by the way, RFK Jr., his Health and Human Services Secretary, they're ditching the Narcan program that I believe was started under Joe Biden to expand access to Narcan, which is something that's like as a last resort if somebody's having an overdose can save their life. And we've seen the data on this already year over year. It saved thousands and thousands and thousands of people from dying from overdoses. We saw like the first little dip in overdose deaths directly as a result of expanded access to Narcan. And they're cutting that as a part of their proposed budget. I mean, it's demented stuff. Now, we also have another clip here. Pam Bondi, and I won't even play this one, but you get the picture here from the quote. She says, President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country. Ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you. Now, the interesting part of this is that you get a wide shot of this cabinet meeting. What do you guys notice about this? First off, they're all being forced to sit in front of a MAGA hat, which is already weird enough. Then you take a closer look at a lot of the guys, and a lot of them are wearing matching red ties. Matching red ties to Donald Trump, as they're all just participating in a massive circle jerk here. That's what this is. They're literally all going around the table and having a competition on who can suck Trump off the best, right? Now, couple more things here. So this was amazing. The White House has started doing, with the press secretary here, Caroline Leavitt, they've started doing these press events, right? Normally you would take questions from all sorts of different reporters from all sorts of different outlets, but they're doing this instead now, where they're inviting a bunch of MAGA propagandists, or online personalities, I guess is the way to put it, into it like a private room where Caroline Leavitt is giving them a personal press conference. And some of the questions from this event are just as insane as you would possibly expect. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this here.
And will continue to be. So thanks for coming to the Influencer Briefing. I look forward to taking your questions. And Deborah, why don't you kick us off?
So congratulations on 100 incredible days. And over the first 100 days, the majority of policies that we've seen from the Trump administration have been either targeted at foreign affairs, such as bringing the American hostages home, or attempting to end the war between Ukraine and Russia, or on long-term goals such as cutting government spending with DOGE. What policies can we expect to see rolled out over the next few months that Americans will directly feel the effects of in order to secure the 2026 midterms for the Republican Party and keep his approval rating historically high?
Yeah, the first answer that comes to mind, Deborah, is definitely tax cuts.
Okay. Historically high. That's an interesting thing to say. Donald Trump, just a couple days ago, set a historic 80-year record for a low in his approval rating 100 days into his presidency. An 80-year historic low this far into his presidency. And we got MAGA influencers in the White House, again, just like sucking off the president. There's no real question here. And saying, you know, what can we expect to come so he can continue to have historically high approval ratings? These people are way too far gone. They are not living in the same world as us, guys. I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know what kind of demented information stream these people have, if they're just shameless propagandists and liars or what the case is. But this entire event was just like dystopian and bizarre head to toe. That was just one of the questions. It didn't get, you know, much better as it went on. Here we had another guy, Link Lauren, who got in on the action. Let's go ahead and watch him.
In the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids. But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up. Suicide rates were up. You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully. What advice do you have to young parents out there who are starting their careers, having kids, building families, and trying to find that balance so desperately?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And first, to the heart of your premise, it's true. The president has empowered not just me as a young mother in this role, but there are so many new moms and dads on our senior staff in the West Wing, but also across the entire administration. There are working moms and dads who are owing our country public service for President Trump while raising young families, and the president really empowers us to do that. And
Okay, as pointed out here by Tim Miller, impossible to tell whether or not this is real or if this is like an SNL sketch or something like that. What kinds of questions are these, right? There's a way you could have structured that question where it might have actually been good, right? Like, is Trump in favor of expanding or bringing back the child tax credit, or creating, you know, a program for universal pre-K or universal childcare or something like that? Like, how is he going to materially improve the lives of average working class families or people with children? There's a way you could ask that question and a way you could answer that question that could have been productive. Not exactly what I saw there. There was another person who asked a question as a part of these briefings. I think it's this woman over here, or maybe it was somebody else, but she literally asked Caroline Leavitt, "What direction do you want me to go in on this question?" Right? She was basically asking the press secretary, "What question should I ask you? What question should I?" Guys, these are not journalists. Right? I guess influencers is a more accurate term, and at least they're using that instead of journalists. But I mean, it was just bizarre and pathetic and weird all at the same time. There was another person who asked a question, and people later figured out that she was the same person who a few months back went viral on Twitter because she went on this rant where she said, "Has anybody seen the moon lately? I haven't seen it in days. Where did the moon go? Why is nobody talking about how the moon disappeared? Isn't this suspicious?" These are the kinds of people they're inviting into this room. There's an opportunity here. And I said this when we watched the Tim Pool question that he asked to Caroline Leavitt when he got the opportunity to. There's an opportunity here, right, to ask a substantive question, to press the most powerful person in the world, right, or a spokesperson for him, right, to try to get to the bottom of some of what Trump is doing here. And they're just not even making an attempt to do that. I mean, could you guys imagine if a Democratic president invited me to the White House, or somebody like me to the White House, to ask them a question, and I just gave them fawning praise about how everything that they're doing is great? No, of course not. I'm gonna bust their balls, right? I'm going to ask them a difficult question for them to answer. I'm going to try to push them on policy issues. I mean, it's just, again, wildly pathetic. So I guess I'll leave you guys off with that. Again, our spiral to fascism continues unimpeded. Our, descent into a full-blown, it looks like, a global recession because Trump doesn't want to back off of his delusional tariff policy continues. And MAGA and the Trump administration are becoming more and more cult-like by the day, to the point where it really does seem like they're living in an alternate reality.
Politic guy has the best politics. Believe me. No one does it like him. Believe me. Everyone is saying